Hey, what's going on, everybody? Before I get into the video, I just want to say that I'm sorry for disappearing on y'all. I know it's been a little while, but I've been wanting to make this video for a while, but you know, now that I'm actually making it, it took a while to actually make it. I think I might have to make like follow-up videos to this one, because I just needed to get a whole bunch of stuff together and test a whole bunch of things, and then in addition to that, regular life stuff kind of got in the way, and I've just been generally feeling all around kind of tired. But now I think I've got everything that I need, so without further ado, let's just get into the video. Now, I know what this looks like, but I'm gonna have to ask you to pay no attention to the thumbnail or the title of this video or that intro you just watched. That was mainly done for presentation purposes and also clickbait. But I will admit that this video was mainly made out of frustration. It just seems like as time passes, the more I play this game, the more its flaws seem all that more apparent and glaring, and it's just been eating and chipping away at me, and it's just really starting to get to me. And look, I have tried taking breaks. I take breaks regularly, but every time I come back to this game, Absolver, there's always something that just stirs me right back up. And you know, I've been thinking about doing something like this for a while now, but I always kind of held back because I don't know, this game's old, and you know, it wasn't even gonna matter. But like, you know, I'm right now, I'm at a point where I just don't care anymore. I need to get it out of my system, because if I don't, I feel like I'm just gonna explode or something, man. Because I don't know if it's just it's like a combination of burnout and frustration, and I just need to make this just so I can be done with this, because if I don't, it's always gonna keep going at me. So like, and like, this isn't, I don't mean for this to be an attack on the game or the devs, alright? Like, I've been playing this game for almost 5 years. I have almost 2,000 hours on it, and I'm like combat trial level 5,000 plus. So, I mean, I say this because, like, if you know me, then you know. But like, just in case you don't know me or who I am, or that I've been making content for this game for pretty much ever since it came out, almost. I'm just gonna put that out there, so that just for context sake, so that anything I say about this game, you know that it's just me being brutally honest. This is my take as a veteran player of this game. Alright. So yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there. And yeah, I know that this is the devs Slow Clap's first game. I understand that there was gonna be a lot of mistakes in making this game, since you know they're a rather inexperienced team and all that, but I still think it needs to be said that pointed out that the things in this game that it just doesn't do well, what it gets wrong and all that, you know. And again, this is not an attack on Slow Clap, alright? Outside of just voicing my frustrations, I'm making this video because I want to help. I truly do. And like, even if Slow Clap never comes back to Absolver, or doesn't make a sequel to it, or just sticks with the single player games that like Sifu, you know, even if they never make a fighting game ever again, I think it's worth it to just put this out here just for future reference. So before I really just dive into this game's issues, I want to go over my fighting game background real quick, just, you know, for even more extra context. So growing up as a kid, I played Super Smash Bros. Melee. Like, yeah, I know it's a party platformer game, but like, look, it's Smash, okay? It's Smash, so I gotta include it, alright? Other fighting games I played as a kid, I got a taste of Street Fighter 2 and Killer Instinct on my older cousin's console as a kid, and I didn't really touch a fighting game after that until Mortal Kombat X, like an actual fighting game, you know, until Mortal Kombat X. And even then I didn't really get into Mortal Kombat X. I mostly just messed around in training mode and did the single player modes. I barely got online in that game, and even when I did, I got destroyed, but that's besides the point. I didn't take it that seriously, alright? The first fighting game I actually took seriously was this game, Absolver. And from Absolver, then later Dragon Ball FighterZ came out a year later, and I got into that, and I played that pretty seriously. And then let's see, then there was Guilty Gear came out. Guilty Gear Strive came out, and I got into that. And then my a friend recommended BlazBlue. It was an older game, but it came out in like 2014, I believe. But I tried that for a little while, and then Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown came out, and a friend told me about that one, and it was free on PlayStation Plus, so I got into that, and I still play that. So like, as you can see, hopefully I'm not missing anything, but as you can see, my fighting game background isn't that extensive. But like, when I started taking fighting games more seriously, when I got into other fighting games besides Absolver, and when I come back to Absolver, it's like, you know, it's kind of weird, because now that I have that experience with other fighting games and seeing how they do things, it's like coming back to Absolver. It's like, it's a bit jarring, because it's like, yeah, there's some things missing here, you know? So I'm not saying that you need to play other fighting games to know what can be improved in with Absolver, but because I mean you don't need to. But I will say that having that experience with other fighting games has better helped shaped what I think could be better with Absolver, because yeah, there's just some things it helped me to realize the things that Absolver really needs to get down as a fighting game, because it just gets a lot of things wrong. So with that in mind, now let's get into this critique review, I guess. And yeah, I think the first thing I'm going to talk about regarding the issues with this game is the tutorial. Alright, so the tutorial mode is pretty interesting. For the sake of being thorough, I'm just gonna give you the rundown of it real quick. After you start a new game and make your character, and after that beginning cutscene I used as an intro plays, you get plopped down right into this little starting area. So far so good, it's looking real promising. You run around and the game teaches you some basics, like how to lock on, how to attack, you know, your attack sequences, square, 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 how to switch stances, I'm gonna more on that later, alternative attacks, also more on that later, breaking attacks, more on that later, guarding, actually, you know what, wait, let me just take a second here to address something. This is the only time that you get to bust through doors in this game. It teaches you breaking attacks, guard breaks, these orange attacks, by busting through doors, and you will never ever do that again. Like there's like 3 doors you can bust through, right? But you will never ever find another door like that. And it's just like, slow clap, why do you keep doing this? It's the same thing in the newest game, Sifu, where you bust down a door in the tutorial mode, like at the very beginning of the game. Like, why do you insist on teaching us strong attacks through busting down doors? Like, I mean, I don't know, like, it's just it's whatever. Okay, anyway, you learn how to guard, how to feint, what else? You learn how to manual dodge. It's not that good, so don't be trying to use it a whole lot. Also, you may have noticed that there's these circle things that pops up occasionally. Don't worry about that for now. I'm gonna get to that in a minute. So more on that later. But yeah, you also learn your style ability. In this case I picked Cult, so I got the Absorb ability. And then you come across this door where you have to fight the door guardian to get through it. You find him, you fight a few more dudes, you find him, you beat him up, you get through the door. Now once you get past this point, assuming you haven't run past this NPC, the game will tell you about meditation. Meditation is basically a training mode that you can access at any time in the world that you're running around in Absolver, whenever you're not like in a fight or whatever like that. And this is where you can mess with your stats. Yes, you have stats in this game, but for those of you who know, I'm just giving the rundown of those who don't know, so bear with me if you already know this stuff. But Absolver has RPG elements in it, so you can mess with your stats as you level up, and like they don't matter too much, but you are at a significant advantage if you are underleveled and you go into PvP. So yeah, but not by that much. But more on that later. Also, pay no attention to the blue squares in the combat deck section of this meditation menu. That's from my other character, leftover from my other character. This is my second character, but that's my school deck. When you start the game, you will not have that for the first time if you're brand new. And anyway, this is your combat deck that you can edit moves and stuff. You will gain more attack slots later as you level up. And don't worry, there's more attacks in this game than just those. They'll become known to you as you progress through the game and fight NPCs. And yeah, there's also a dummy for you to beat up on, but I mean, you know, just to test some things out in your deck. But other than that, like this training mode, this quote-unquote training mode, is really lackluster. It doesn't really teach you how to. It doesn't give you the option to practice defending, and also, this is probably the only time you will see this tips thing. Well, not the only time, but like you will see it whenever you come here. But like, you know, let's just be honest with ourselves. How many of us saw this, looked at all this once, and then just never looked at it again? Like, there's some pretty useful information here, but you know, this should have been like a proper, like, how do I put this? Like an actual trial mode that lets you practice this stuff instead of just telling you about it. Because this one thing this game loves to do is tell you about stuff, like some of the bit more intricate and complex things about the game itself, but it doesn't like show you in a way some important things, you know. It doesn't show you like things that you need to actually see, right? Like I mean, sure, you could just get it from reading, but like I myself am more of a visual learner, and I imagine that's how it is for most people as well. Like there ought to be like some sort of, at least some kind of visual aid, and I know this game can do it. I know the devs can do it, because like, don't tell me that you can't, because I know that y'all can slow clap, because y'all done it at the beginning of the game where you first pick where they have like these little demonstrations where you first pick your beginning style. So don't tell me that you can't do it, because you absolutely can. Alright, but it's a little misstep there, I suppose. You know, an oversight or something. Like hindsight is 2020. All right, really. So yeah, the tutorial mode, I mean the training mode rather, it's missing some key features. I'll expand on that a bit later. But yeah, after you're done looking at what meditation. After you get out of meditation, you fight a few more dudes, and then you're just kind of on your way into the like main sort of world of this game. So after this point, there's no turning back. You're officially in the world of Absolver. And if you thought that tutorial was a little too short for like how much of the stuff that you kind of need to know in this game, well, guess what? The tutorial mode's actually not over yet. No. You see, the whole story mode is the tutorial mode. You ask any veteran player, they will tell you the same thing. That's so yeah, if you think that was all you needed to know, that little beginning area was all you needed to know to just get online and start fighting other people, you are in for a very rude awakening, because there's actually a whole lot more stuff that you have to know first and get through and all that, which I will expand on now. Now, once you get to the guidance bridge, you will come across an altar that you can activate. Sitting at the altar will heal your character, and its main use is for accessing other modes and the essence shop. There are more altars throughout this world, but more on that later. The main game has you go through this world where you have to hunt down these mini bosses and bosses in order to progress and open that door over there. Now, for what this map is pretty big for Absolver, like for what it is, for what this game is, this map is pretty big, and it's pretty easy for a new player to get lost, and nothing is labeled, or there's no real landmarks on the map either, right? And the altar is the only way you can access the map outside of this stone here that you see right now. So even like if you get lost, if you feel lost, you can't pull up the map like midway through to see if you're heading in the right direction or wherever you want to go, right? So it's, yeah, that map is, needless to say, that map is pretty terrible. It tells you practically nothing. It doesn't label anything for you. There's no landmarks marked on it. Nothing. You can't even pull it up in the middle of the path or whatever. You always have to go to an altar to pull it up, and that can be pretty frustrating for a new player. Like once you know where everything is, right? It's not that bad, but learning where that is, that's the tough part. Where things are, that's rough. That's a rough process. And other altars, now this would be better. It would be more bearable if other altars you came across acted like fast travel points, but they don't do that either. The altars don't serve as fast travel points either. That would make getting around a whole lot easier, honestly. You won't have to run around all the time, because that starts to get tedious after a while, especially if you're really lost looking for somebody, you know, looking for these bosses or specific NPCs or whatever. So yeah. Now the next issue I like to address with this tutorial is the move learning mechanic. In case you don't know, veterans, bear with me. In Absolver, you have the unique ability to basically create your own move set through attacks that you've learned. Now the problem is that when you first start the game, you're just fresh, or you're just starting a new character or whatever. Most of the attacks are locked and or hidden. So what you have to do is that you have to fight NPCs. You have to fight them, and you have to defend against their attacks so that you can learn moves that you want, so you can fill up your deck and create your own moveset. Recall earlier when I was fighting those NPCs that those circles that were appearing whenever I blocked or dodged something. I was learning a move that they were trying to use on me. First it fills up with blue. That's called temporary XP. And then when you beat them, you fill it up with white. It gets filled up with white, and that's permanent XP. And once the circle is filled up all the way with permanent XP, you will unlock that move so that you can finally use it. And yes, that means it's also permanently unlocked, just in case that wasn't clear. So that's how you learn moves. You have to defend against them by blocking, by using your style ability, or by manual dodging. Although I don't recommend it. That creates bad habits. That manual dodge. But yeah, those are the ways that you can learn moves. There's also another way. Oh wait, but before I get into that, when you learn those moves, when you're in the process of learning the moves, you have to defeat the NPC or the player you're fighting against, your opponent. Basically your opponent. You have to defeat them, because if you don't, if they beat you, you will lose the temporary XP and you have to start over again. Alright. You also can't run away either. You also lose the XP, the temporary XP. You have to defeat your opponents. You have to defend against them and defeat them. Also, there is another way to learn moves, and that's through the school system. Now, if you don't know, let me just run through this really quickly. Basically, the school system is a thing that exists in Absolver that allows you to learn moves just by simply using them. So basically, you're using somebody else's moveset, another player's moveset, and you learn their moves. It's their school. Just by using them, you learn their moves just by using them, and that's why sometimes, since I have my school deck, sometimes you'll see in this video here that I'm just filling up these circles just by using attacks. So that's my school deck. But when you start, you probably won't have that. You can join a school at any time, so you can learn moves a bit easier, a bit quicker. Although it still takes some time, and it's learning moves the regular way also just takes a lot of time. Like that's the real issue with this move learning mechanic. It just takes too long. It's super grindy. Like that mechanic where you use another player's moveset and you just learn moves by attacking and using their moveset. Like that was a feature that was added in. That initially wasn't there at the beginning. They added that in to make learning attacks easier. But even then, it still takes too long. You have to search for moves that you want. It's by either by joining multiple schools, seeing if they have them. Well, not joining, but like searching for multiple schools and seeing if they have the moves that you want, or by looking at searching for specific NPCs that do the moves that you want. It just takes too long. And even if you have somebody helping you, right, just teaching you all the moves, like in one sitting, if you've got like an afternoon to spare, it's still really tedious and boring, and it's not fun. All right. Like usually in a fighting game, you want to have access to all your characters' moves and their moveset, so that all you have to do is learn the basics of the game, and then you're pretty much good to go. You're set for online. You're still gonna get destroyed, but like, you know the basics. With Absolver, learning the basics is going to take a bit more time than usual. And I'm not saying this to say that Absolver needs to do what other fighting games do, right? No, I'm not saying that at all. Absolver has a very unique system that I think can work, but this current the way the current this move learning system works currently, it's just too grindy and it takes too long. All right, and there are a bunch of moves in this game, a bunch of moves. Like if you want to make a good deck, you have to do a whole lot of grinding. All right, and what I suggest is that, similar to how you get, like unlock more deck slots and let's see what else. Well, more deck slots in your deck and more like extra decks for you to use, right? You unlock those by leveling up a certain amount. So I think in order to make this process of learning moves less tedious and grindy and time consuming is to just lock moves behind a certain level. All right, I think by the time you're around level, let's say 45, you should have already unlocked most of the attacks in the most of the attacks in this game. At least the base attacks. Alright, not counting the extra ones in the Phajin downfall update. Okay, but that we'll get to that later. Don't worry, we'll get to that later. But like most attacks in this game should be locked behind. I think should be locked behind levels. You know, like give us multiple ways to grind. Like we could unlock certain moves early if we grind for them specifically, or we can just unlock them eventually by leveling up. All right. Or you know what? Actually, like let us also like spend crystals and fragments on moves that we want to unlock early too. You know, why not? You know, give those an extra use beside outside the shop. Get those crystals and fragments outside the essence shop. That's a, you know, that's an. I'm gonna get to that later. Well, I mean, look, you can. That's a crystals and essence. That's a whole resource thing. I'll get to it later. Okay, I promise. But like give us multiple ways to unlock moves. All right, because it's as it is right now. It's too grindy. Even when you have somebody helping you, just teaching you all the moves. All right, it still takes a long ass time, and it's not fun. Like, and I think you can even lock certain moves behind. You know, like the Phajin moves, you can lock those behind the Gleam level. All right. For the downfall stuff. Again, I'll get to that stuff later. I promise. But yeah, it's just that the whole move learning process is just super grindy and slow and inefficient for helping people get into this game. All right. Like I beat the tutorial at like the tutorial at like level 26, and look at how much moves I still have left to unlock. Some still hidden, some I'm still in the process of, a lot I'm still in the process of learning. It's too much. All right, it's too much. Like I'm only level 26. You know, the story mode, the story tutorial, it doesn't take that long to beat. Like I beat it at level 26. You could beat it at like even less than that. I've seen people as low as like level 13 say they beat it. All right, even lower. You know. So I mean, and it's just off of this deck, no less. You know, this starting deck right here. It's kind of wild to me, bro. Like you still have so much left to grind for, and it's just, and the process is just, it's slow. Like I said, it's not really, like that's kind of not good, really. You know, it's move grinding. It takes too long. Like if you want to build a good deck, it's gonna take you a lot longer. You know, I'm sure you could use somebody else's deck, but this game is about building your own deck and expressing yourself through that deck. All right, and also like through character customization and gear and all that. But still, you know, and the longer that takes for that to happen, you know, the harder it's gonna be. So yeah, speaking of which, you know, the deck building and all that, that's a whole other thing. But before I get into that, I want to go more in depth about the stances. Like I mentioned earlier, the game does tell you about the stances. You know, it tells you how to switch between them. It shows you the controls that allow you to switch between them, right? You know, even makes it mandatory for you to switch between them. That's great. You know, that's good. But what it doesn't show is, even though it tells you that you can do different attacks from the stances, it doesn't show you that. All right, and it doesn't make you try it either. All right. Like, and this is really important because I still hear from new players all the time. They're still confused about what the stances do. All right, and I suspect it's because, you know, like it's just not sticking, you know. They don't have. This is why I said it needed like a lot of the things that they tell you in this game. It just doesn't stick. They need like a visual sort of tutorial, or like make it to where you can actually practice it, you know. Because look, I can do it right now. Like, see, look, I can show you in this deck what each of these attacks is doing. Like from this stance, top right, you're doing this attack. You're doing, and from top left, you're doing that attack. From bottom left, you're doing this attack. From bottom right, you're doing that attack. You know, depending on what button you press, right, you're gonna get certain attacks. It's like just to show it off. It works just like that. All right. So it's like it's something that Absolver desperately needs. You need at least some sort of, I guess, like some kind of mission trial mode where you can actually practice this stuff. Like you can get or like at least provide like a visual aid. For when you look at the tips, right? Because a lot of the times, like you read it, like it's right there. And the game even tells you about like some of this stuff. It doesn't tell you about all of it, but it should, even though it should. But it tells you about some of this stuff, and it doesn't stick. It just doesn't stick. There needs to be at least a visual aid, and I also think that the well, I don't know. It could be more beneficial to move the tips from the meditation to, well, actually keep it access to the meditation, but also like access it from just the pause button so that people just don't forget about it. Because like even though it's right there, right, when you try to go to exit the combat deck editor, like a lot of times I just, you know, I know I pretty much ignored it. Like it just wasn't even really there in my mind. But even when I was back playing the game, when I was brand new, fresh on the scene and all that, you know. So like I think the tips section needs to be more out front, not behind like these menus, because it's pretty easy. It's actually pretty easy to skip, especially when you're not thinking about it. It just needs to be more in your face, right? Like how Guilty Gear has the training mode, you know, the tutorial and the mission mode and the training mode just kind of right there under the dojo category. Like it's like when you boot up the game, it's just right there. You see dojo right there in the main menu. You go under it, and then you see the tutorial, the mission mode, and the training. All right, and it's the same thing with Virtua Fighter. You see, like the moment you boot up Virtua Fighter, right, after you press start, right, you see training mode, you press training mode, and then you see all these options here. You see the tutorial, you see the command training, and you see free training, right? And like these games, they show you how to use these things, how to use the tools that you have, right? Like Guilty Gear teaches you the difference between close slash and far slash, okay? And it lets you practice that. It's an actual like trial mission that you can do just to get the hang of it. And Virtua Fighter is the same way. It has a trial mode in its tutorial where you can just it tells you what the mechanic does, and then it tells you to practice it. It makes you practice it. All right, and Absolver just doesn't do that. Like the one time it actually did make you practice anything was with the stances. From what I recall, it was just it was just the stances, really. Sure, you break down doors with your guard breaking attacks and all that, and it tells you about the sequences and the alternatives of attacks, but like the stances thing, that was like it was an actual tutorial. It didn't just tell you, it also made you practice it so that you could see how it worked. And that's the real main point here. You could see how it worked because it made you practice it. And, you know, even if it didn't make you practice it, like if it had like a visual aid, you know, then it would still be just as effective. So you could still see it, all right, and then you could practice it for yourself. But anyway, moving on. As for the deck building, now I don't, since deck building is kinda complex, like you could still teach it, but I given how you know, making your own moveset is like the real selling point of this game, I kinda expected, well, I guess I wasn't really expecting anything at the time, but now that, you know, all this time has passed, I think there should be like a tutorial, a more in-depth tutorial about the combat deck and how the attacks work, you know, how the moves kind of just flow together from stance to stance, from attack to attack and all that. I don't expect like a full course on like on deck building like you know, like Absolver meta and frame data. No, I don't expect that. That's too much. But like I mean, like I you know, like it could use like maybe some tips on like overall deck structure. You know, like as I said before, like, you know, deck flow, deck structure, like, you know, and that might be a little bit complex, but it can be done, alright? Like, all you have to do is, suppose you just, like, I suspect that the devs didn't really think that far ahead given the starting deck that we were given, but, the way I would do it is, what I suggest is that you kind of go over like some basic deck building principles, you know, like teach new players how to avoid bottlenecks and all that and such. Teach them how the deck flows, like sequence attacks. They don't always change your stance like the alternative attacks do. Some attacks in your sequences, they always start and end in the same stance, right? Oh, by the way, like you can't use certain sequence attacks as an alternate attack because of that, since they end in the same stance. Alternate attacks are supposed to help you change your stance, to help you get around in your deck, you know. Just basic stuff like that, you know, like say if you have like I don't know, a certain starter, right? Like hang on, let me get something in order here. Alright, so I'm gonna use this deck as a demonstration. In this deck, from top right, we have Fencing Punch into Double Palm, which you're seeing right now. I can do Fencing Punch, I can do Double Palm after Fencing Punch, alright? Or, as indicated by that diamond arrow thing that's lit up, I can do Fencing Punch into Fast Punch. That attack at the bottom right side of the screen. So just for visual purposes, I'm gonna show it off right here. Fencing Punch into Double Palm, see? And Fencing Punch into Fast Punch. It's called Fast Punch even though it's not that fast. But anyway,
Now we have a problem here. We have a bottleneck because both double palm and fast punch are straight attacks, which means that they can both be side dodged, side avoided, or whatever, right? We need a horizontal to cover our bases, so because you can't side dodge through horizontal attacks. So we need to get rid of either double palm or fast punch. I'm going to get rid of double palm and go for outward kick here. It's a horizontal attack. See? So now when we do fencing punch into double palm, well, if my opponent side dodges, I know next time that I can just do fencing punch into outward kick and I can catch their side dodge, right? By the way, you can see what kind of attack and what kind of properties an attack has by pressing R3 on the attack when you like, you know, move your cursor over it. All right. But anyway, yeah. Anyway, we still have a problem here. Both double palm and outward kick are hitting to the same side, which means they can both be parried to the same side, right? Which means we still have a problem. We need to change one of those moves. I'm going to change outward kick again. I'm going to go for spinning wide hook. It hits to the opposite side. It hits to the left side. My left side. So now we got a real mix-up. Now we got fencing punch into double palm, which is a straight attack that hits to the right side. And now we also have fencing punch into spinning wide hook, which is a horizontal attack that cannot be side dodged and hits to the left side, which has to be paired to the other side. Don't worry if you're still lost. Like, I will explain side avoiding and parrying later, so I will get to that. But just know that this is what you need to do to create an actual mix-up in this game, in Absolver. Since mix-ups, you know, they work a lot differently in this game than, well, they're pretty unique to this game than your traditional fighter. But yeah, like, yeah, and as you can see, like, the attacks go into different stances here, different sequences, different alternative attacks. Just pay attention to where that diamond is pointing and you'll see where you'll end up here. As far as deck flow goes, you know, is where the sequences and deck flow. You can see that. See? You can also notice how I have other mix-ups here. Like, I have from after I do double palm, I can do an inside kick, or I can do plexus elbow. And both of those moves are very different attacks. Like, inside kick is a horizontal and plexus is a straight attack. They're both hitting opposite sides, if you've noticed. So yeah, just pay attention to where your the diamond arrow thing is pointing to, and you'll know where what attack leads into what, and into what sequence is going into what other sequence and all that. All right. So yeah, that's just an example of how, like, what I mean. You know, just teaching overall basic deck building principles and deck flow is what I meant. You know. Oh, also, while I'm on, I almost forgot to mention this, but gold linking. Oh, we in the community call it gold linking. You know, when your character flashes gold when you're attacking. The game calls it perfect attacks in the tips section, and again, it's one of those things that should have had like a visual aid or like a actual tutorial tied to it, like the stances. But basically, the game doesn't want you to spam. Alright, it doesn't want you to just spam square, 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 or triangle, 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 or whatever the button you use for attacking is, but our buttons are. But it wants you to get like a certain rhythm down. And I think this is I think this is really an oversight because it's actually very important for like deck building, and frame data kind of assumes that you're gonna gold link or use perfect attacks. Again, I'm not gonna get too much in depth on the frame data just yet, but it's very important that you learn how to gold link or like do the perfect attack execution thing, because that's how you speed up your momentum. You know, your attacks. Your attacks come out faster when you do that. All right, and I think they also consume less stamina as well. I have to check that. I think so, but yeah, it's in the tip section, and it doesn't really, it tells you, but it doesn't show you. So yeah, you just get a certain rhythm down. Like the timing is pretty similar on a lot of attacks. On certain attacks, you might need to press the button, the attack button sooner than you think, a little bit sooner, and a little bit later on other attacks. But that's basically the gist of it, and it's really gonna help you in your pressure game, really. So yeah, that's just another example of the game just telling you about something and not really showing you it, and you know, tons of players, new players, it doesn't really stick to them. They're not quite, it doesn't stick to them. They're not quite sure what it's doing or how to do it, or you know, some of them might even think that it's, you know, cheap to gold link. But really, that's just the thing about it, right? It's really important that you know this. All right, so yeah, that was the other thing about the deck building and the deck flow, you know, deck structure, gold linking, all that, you know. Okay, so the very last thing I want to address about this tutorial is the resources, the fragments and the crystals. You're probably wondering what those are for, and that is a very excellent thing to wonder, because the game doesn't tell you this because it was added in later on. So I think they probably just forgot to introduce it, because they just kind of plopped it into the game for the downfall update. So no, actually, it wasn't the downfall update, was it? I think it was. No, it wasn't for the downfall update, but it was in an update, because initially there was a time where you would just get like random gear, like randomly from not just NPCs, but from also combat trials, the game's like PvP mode, and this like the whole essence kind of. Oh, this was it. Was that in the? No. Oh my god. The essence thing was the downfall update, I believe. Yeah, because some of that stuff was left behind Gleam level. Don't worry, I'm getting to that later. But I think the Rift coins and the Rift discs and the crystals and the fragments, those were all together, I think, in an update, because like again, you would just get random gear, and you would have no way to get rid of it, because if you would get multiple of the same gear a lot of the time. So what they did was they added this system in where you could dye and salvage gear for fragments, so that you could. Well, they gave you fragments so you can dye and salvage gear. You salvage gear to get fragments, and you spend you can spend fragments on like just dyeing the same gear like a different color or something. Later on in the Downfall update, they added an essence shop where you can spend fragments. So on gear, and the crystals are pretty much the same way. Like at this point, like if you're a new player, you probably don't have any crystals even after beating the game, the tutorial story mode. And the way to get crystals is after you reach the max level 60, you will start to prestige, and every prestige level you gain, like every subsequent prestige level after level 60, right? After the base level 60, you will gain a crystal. So like you get past level 60, your prestige 0, level 0, you level up to level, was it prestige 0? No, prestige 0 is the base. Prestige 1, level 0 or something, and then you get to prestige 1, level 1, you gain a crystal. You get to prestige 1, level 2, you know, you get another crystal. So it works like that, and you spend the crystals on stuff in the essence shop, not on gear. I believe the crystals are for shit, I forgot to get footage for that, but like the crystals are for like emotes and different intros and shit, and also for buying rift discs, and yeah, that's what the crystals are for. And the fragments, like I said already, it's for buying gear and shit, and like dyeing your gear and you know, all that. So that's what that's doing. The game doesn't tell you that, but now you know. Like it should though. Like it should have been introduced somehow, but I mean, you know, probably an oversight. But yeah, I think that's just about gonna go ahead and do it for this whole tutorial / story section of this whole review, this whole part of the review. My god, that was a lot of stuff, but it needed to be covered. I think I didn't get everything, but I think I got what was necessary, what I thought, you know, so like what I thought was necessary, you know, to cover. If I didn't mention something here, I know I didn't get to the gleam stuff and the Phagin and all that. Look, don't worry, I'll get to that in a different part, but not in this part, alright? Because that's a whole, that stuff's kind of just tied together, so I'll get to that, I'll get to it then, when I cover the styles, but not now. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to make a whole wow, because this thing here, oh man, pardon my random thoughts, but anyway, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the other parts, because this was only part 1. I'm not done yet. But because there's still some other stuff I gotta cover. This was just a tutorial, like I said, you know, story mode / tutorial mode. So yeah, until then, y'all, have a good one. Peace.